Hello and welcome to the GrapeSEED Official Podcast. This episode will be another installment in our 10 Things series, where we sit down with a coach or former teacher and have a fun, relaxed conversation about GrapeSEED. Our 10 Things are a set of 10 questions the conversation will be built around, but we will most certainly talk about many other things too. We are completing the Circle of Life GrapeSEED version today. We had Matthew Stridham, my original coach, on back in the deep dive on classroom management. Today, we welcome Sawin Gunasekera, who I used to coach and who is now on the curriculum team. You can see him on the portal in the Master Teacher Series and the Teacher Training course, as well as the Unit 20 Trainer examples in the GrapeSEED Materials and Effective Teaching Examples course. So welcome to the podcast, Sawin.
Thanks for having me, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's get started with the hard-hitting journalistic questions that we have here on the 10 Things podcast. What is your favorite material and why?
Man, as you know, there are just so many things to choose from. So I have a couple, if that's okay.
Go for it. I'll allow it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. But I'd have to say the first one is from Unit 9, the washing machine.
Okay.
You know, it's a short song, but I feel like it's universally loved and it gets the energy up in class. And on top of that, musically, it's very jazzy. It kind of has a gypsy jazz rhythm, which is not really something that you hear in children's music. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's something that GrapeSEED does really well, exposing students to a variety of genres of different music. And the further you climb into the units, the more of that you're going to see as a teacher and the more your students are going to hear. So, yeah.
So what's your other one?
Well, Unit 22, and I think maybe some teachers haven't seen this yet, so this is something to look forward to, but there's a story called Grandpa Forgets.
Oh, okay.
And the first time I read it, right, you understand where I'm going. I was a little surprised because it's very casually touching on a kind of scary idea that when we get older, we start to forget things. And it's something that our students are going to experience through their own grandparents. It's something I've experienced with my own grandparents. And yeah, just because kids are young doesn't mean we can't talk about these things. So I think, there's a lot of valuable lessons sort of baked into these units.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you made there of these things are baked in. Like we're not explicitly talking about, okay, boys and girls, maybe grandma and grandpa will have dementia in the future or anything like that. But students will be able to relate to this because in a lot of cases, they've experienced it themselves. So that natural life experience they have will help them connect with this story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go on to favorite unit.
Well, like I said, there's songs and stories that stand out in every unit that I really like a lot. So setting all of those things aside, my favorite units, more than the actual content, have to do with how students are doing at that point in time. Basically, how much language have they been given through the curriculum? How much can they express themselves? And for me, that really comes out in units 6 and 7, where I feel like students have enough to, rather than just make observations about the outside world, to actually talk about what they're thinking or what they're feeling or what they like. So that's, as a teacher, that's what gets me really excited, is to hear students communicating their own thoughts and feelings. Yeah, you see kids getting super creative, and it just goes to show that they're not memorizing sort of set phrases, but they're starting to understand the language, being able to break it down and then put it together in sort of new ways that you wouldn't expect.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Unit 6 as well. So let's talk about something that was really cool that you saw in the classroom. I know we're in COVID times right now, so you haven't been in a classroom in a little while, but what's something cool relatively recently that you've seen in the classroom?
Well, when I was visiting classrooms, there were all sorts of teachers all over the country, and I mostly saw teachers in Japan. But there was one teacher who would always set up his classroom for discovery, right? He would just take a little bit of time, 5 to 10 minutes before class, to set up props. He would tape them to the walls, on top of the exit sign, wherever, just something that students might notice or that he could draw attention to later, to give them a quick interaction with the language that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And when students saw it, they would just react to it immediately, and it was like they could not help themselves. It was clear as an observer that they were thinking in English because their thoughts came out so quickly and so readily. So, watching him teach, and forgive the I've been baking a lot of bread recently because I've been stuck at home. But watching him teach was like watching somebody grease a baking pan to make sure the cake came out all right later down the line,
Ooh, descriptive.
Yes, he's reducing the barrier of entry for his students to the point where I think it was easier for them to learn English than it was for them to goof off or not learn at all. And yeah, I think that really came down to his mindset that there's always more to improve and always more that we can do to help our students. And that approach and just a little bit of preparation gave him the continuous gift of good classes and fun time with his students.
Goodbye, my friends, goodbye. I'm sad to say goodbye. It was a good day, but now I will say goodbye, my friends, goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.